These two gowns I wanted to show you because they are two different versions of the same type of bustle. This gown is a French pick-up bustle, and the gown to your left is a ballroom pick-up bustle. I call it a pick-up bustle because it only has one point that gets picked up and secured to the back of the dress. For this gown, the securing anchors are underneath, just like the French bustle I showed you, but there's only one set of ribbons underneath here, and they're secured right here at the bottom of the zipper. And it gives a French bustle effect. On the ballroom gown, there is a hook above the button here and a regular thread pickup point to wrap around the anchor point here. And we did this bustle this way because it had all that beautiful embroidery at the bottom of the train and we didn't want to hide it. For this dress there's no decoration but the buttons, so this effect is very nice. This type of bustle is great for these dresses that are slim in the hip area and don't have a whole lot of width in the skirt, and the trains are not very long. These dresses are becoming very popular nowadays for destination weddings and for simpler affairs where the girls nowadays are just not wanting big foo-foo-y dresses. I'm going to show you how to determine where the pickup and anchor points are on this gown. It's pretty easy to determine where the anchor point's going to be because the buttons stop at the end of the zipper. Usually I will choose the last button in the row as my anchor point. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't, but for this gown it works pretty well. So that's what I'm going to choose as my anchor point. Now that I have my anchor point, I need to find where on the back of the gown my pickup point's going to be. And since I'm only going to have one, I need to get it right and need to have it looking good all the way around with just one point. So it makes it a little more difficult than the other gowns I've shown you how to do. What I do is just choose a point at random on the back seam. I try to get a hold of all the layers, which for this gown is 3, and get that at good grip and hold that up to my anchor point. And then see what the bottom of the dress looks like. Now, this point is a little high. It's a little too high, so I want to go up on the back seam and choose a point a little lower. Let's see how that looks. Now with the pickup bustle, you want to look at where the bottom of the train is going right here, but you also need to look at where the sides are going. So you need to go up and down that back seam until you find a point where the sides of the dress are going to be at a good length along with the back of the dress. And again, like your other bustles, some places are going to be a little higher, like higher than over here, but that's okay. The idea is to get it all up and as close to the same length as possible. Again, when you're only dealing with one point here, it's harder to get everything going up. Now sometimes I might need to change where my anchor is going to be by moving it down, up and down, and by going up and down on where I'm choosing a point here will help me find a point that gets the bottom of the dress up and looking good. Now I like this point right here, so I'm going to put a pin on it and put that down. And now I'm going to go ahead and put my anchor hook and my pickup loop where I've determined they're going to be, and then we'll rig the bustle and see if it looks good. Now we're ready to sew on the pickup point loop and the anchor point hook. Up here I selected the bottom button to be the anchor point. But these buttons are very weak, these satin covered buttons. This one's actually organza covered. They're very weak. So I don't like to trust them. They pop off easily and they break easily. There's just plastic on the back. So what I've gotten in the habit of doing is sewing a little white hook right above the button that I've selected to be the anchor point. And then I will make a loop for the pickup point here where we've determined it to be. Let me give you a close-up. You see where the hook is? It's just right up above the button, and that's where the anchor point is that we will loop the pickup loop onto. You can see it very well right there. Now we're ready to make our pickup loop where we have determined the pickup point to be. We have a pin right here. So the first thing we need to do is to make a stay to go underneath this pickup loop. I use a little metal eye, like a hook and eye. You can see this. These little things that you would normally use as a hook and eye. I will use a pair of pliers to pull that apart to make a little eye that looks like this. I've pulled this apart so that the loops that you normally would sew on here are about 3/8 to 1/2 inch apart. And this will go underneath as a stay, because sometimes the weight of the train is stressful on the threads of the pickup loop. Sometimes a person, even though we've tried to get this up as high as possible so people at the reception won't step on the dress, sometimes it happens anyway. So just in case, we have this little stay underneath so that the dress won't rip, and so that the pickup loops won't break, and the bustle will stay sound just in case anything happens. So I have my little stay, and I have my needle threaded with a double length of buttonhole twist thread and a knot. The first thing I'm going to do is put the thread underneath. Let me get a close-up here so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to put the needle underneath and come up approximately 1/2 inch below my pickup point, but 1/4 inch away from the center seam. It's 1/2 inch from the needle and about 1/4 inch away from my center seam. Then I'm going to go back down right close to that thread, very, very close. But I'm not going to pull it all the way through. I'm going to leave a loop so that I can start making my stitching for the pickup points. Now I have a very small, this is I think it's a number 7 crochet hook that I can put in here to keep this loop, hang on, it's twisted, to keep this loop in place. And then I'm going to turn the dress to the underside because I want to start sewing my stay underneath here. And here I go. Now this is a little tricky. I'm going to have my stay right here, and I'm going to sew right through it and give a little stitch here to get that secured, and then go back through it and back up to the other side, to the front. So I'm going to pull this on the front and keep an eye on it underneath here. So now I have my loop with my crochet hook, and I have my thread on the top of the dress. I'm going to bring my other hand out here because my pickup loop is, my stay underneath, is secured. So what I'm going to do up here is make I've found that 8 stitches work real well. Sometimes you want to do 9 depending on the size of the button that you are looping it onto. 7, 8. Let's see. I'm going to do, yeah, I think 8's going to be really good. That's going to look good. Now I will bring the last loop a little bit longer, take off my crochet hook, go back and get my needle and put the needle through that last loop to knot it. There. Now I go back to where I was. Get the camera focus here. And I'm going to go down approximately 1/4 of an inch on the other side of the center seam and approximately 1/2 an inch down from my marking pin. And I'm going ahead and pulling that all the way down so that the loop is secured against the fabric of the dress. And there's my loop. Now I'm going to go back underneath, back to the underside, where I already have one side of my stay secured. Now I'm going to secure the other side. Loop that through the loop and make a little stitch here. Get that secured. Then I'm going to go through it again and back up to the front side. Hang on here with me. This is a little complicated, but it's a really good way to get this secured. Now I'm back up right next to where I had gone down on the second side of the loop of my pickup loop. Now I'm going to go through that last stitch that I made. Remember when I put the thread through the last loop? I'm going to go through that at the end and then back down right next to where the loop is secured to the dress. Go back down. That's an added stitch to make that secure. I'm going to go back to the underside, back here, and I'm going to knot, make my knot. I'm going to make a little stitch, and to knot I like to wrap around my thread here 2 or 3 times and then pull it up, and that makes a nice knot. Then I'm going to trim this thread, not too close to the bottom. I'm going to leave about 1/2 an inch because I'm on the underside and it's not going to show, and it's good to leave a little bit there. That leaves it nice and secure. So here's the underside with my stay, and here's the front. Here's what the loop looks like. The loop's right there, and that's how you make a pickup loop when you're using a button. Now all I have to do is loop my pickup loop onto my anchor point, which is right here. Now I want to make sure I get my loop onto the hook, not just onto the button. So I want to make sure it's onto the hook and then around the button. And let me give you a close-up so you can see that. There you go. You can see how the loop is hooked onto the hook and then around the button. Okay, once we have the bustle hooked, all we have to do is fluff it out tuck under the parts that don't look good. And this is a really great way to bustle this dress because you can see the pretty design here that's at the bottom of the train. All you have to remember is to tuck toward the center. And there you go, it's really pretty. Hello again, and thank you for watching my video. I hope you've learned a lot about how to bustle a wedding gown. Please come visit me on the internet at Leanna Studios. The address is at the bottom of the screen. Click on the link for the bridal studio, and you will find pictures of wedding gowns that I have bustled. I will continue to put more pictures on the site as I find gowns that I think would be interesting for people to see.